Hello, welcome back. This is Jeff Byers, and this is part 2 of our end cloth dress series. So I'm going to go ahead and continue working on it. You can see that there's a reason why we duplicated the original object. So let's. The only way to see the difference between the two now is that we're going to need to change the color. So let's get that fixed first. Assign a new material. Go to Maya, and I'm just going to add a blend to it, and we are going to create. Now we got a lot of history on there, so let's go ahead and delete the history up here. You can go to edit, delete by type history if you want to, but I just like using the modeling tool here, so I'm going to go click on that, and I'm going to center pivot, delete by type history, and freeze transformations on that. Okay, sounds good. And then let's go ahead and redo, rename the blend to something that makes sense, like dress texture. That sounds good. And let's give it just a blue color so it's easy to see behind the gray. Okay, it's nice and bright. Alright, the first thing I'm going to do is just scale it. This is the most simple, the fastest and simplest way to do this is just scale it. Okay, so I'm going to scale it from just a little bit. We're not talking a lot because we don't want a huge amount of distance, and it's going to be scaling it up and down, and it may not work real well with everything. So a lot of times when I scale it up, I have to move it down a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Just move it down just a little bit like that. Okay, and move it back a little bit. Okay. Alright, you can see we've got some issues here still, okay, with it. Right? So I can go in here and hit the scale key and just kind of scale this up. We're talking just a small amount, not a lot. Okay. And that looks pretty good. I think we've got most of it looking good. Okay. So it's just kind of trial and error right now. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to move some vertices around so they're not colliding with the mesh. So I'm going to hit the 4 key and just find out the pieces that we're having problems with, and just finesse those. Okay, instead of sitting here watching me do all this, let me reset everything. I'm just going to be moving these vertices out just a little bit, wherever they're colliding with the mesh, and I'll come back. I'm going to pause the video. You guys can do this on your own. Just move these vertices just a small amount until you pull all the vertices away. Okay, and just barely get it away from the body. Okay, all right. So I'm going to pause this. You guys can do that, and we'll come back and we'll proceed. Okay, we're back. So you can see that I just pulled vertices around, so the it's not intersecting. The cloth will not work if it's intersecting with the body anywhere. So these are the steps that I took, and you just got to make sure you get pretty close. Now if you go farther away, you're going to see that it looks like it's intersecting, but it's not. That's just a preview issue. If you get closer, you'll notice that they go away. Okay. Now you can see parts right here, but I'm going to get rid of I'm going to rebuild the breastplate because this won't work. This is what the texture, or excuse me, the cloth cannot use this kind of geometry. So I'm going to recreate this entire breastplate. And it looks like we're okay with the rest of it. I might have to kind of move these vertices or edges around right here to kind of even everything out. Otherwise everything's looking pretty good, so that's what we're going to start with. I'm going to go ahead and continue down the body. Okay. Now we're going to have a little bit below knee on the dress. Okay. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and get started with that. And don't worry about any hard edges that you see here. We can fix all those later. So I'm going to hit the Q key and click off, and then double click on the edge here of the dress, and we'll just continue down. Okay, so I'm going to do a Control E, and I'm just going to hit the W key. And again, the whole idea is to keep the mesh edge loops about the same distance apart. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. I like to keep the same shape of the body if I can as we go down. Now I'm going to keep it straight because we want the dress to kind of swing and sway. So as we are moving down, I'm going to start just kind of adding a little more width between the legs. Okay, so I'm going to continue down the leg, Control E, W, and just kind of keep them about, just eyeball it, as far as the distance goes between the edge loops. Control E and W, and we'll just continue that all the way down. Control E and W. Alright, so we get right about there. Now we're going to start, we're kind of at the knee area here. We could have knee length if you want. Now what we can do to make this a little more interesting is let it kind of flare out as we go down. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the Q key and just double click on all these edge loops right here. And I'm going to go from the center, I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger, just like that. And I'm going to just Control click the top one and just make that a little bit bigger. Control click the top one. And you can see how I'm doing that. So just kind of giving that nice flare, very slow flare. Okay. Another thing we got to be careful of is the back of the thigh, or the back of the calf down here, depending on how long our dress we want it to be. The longer the dress, the more fun it is, but the harder to simulate, obviously. So we could continue down the leg if you want to, or we can just do knee length. Okay. So we're not going to do really any animation with this because I don't have it rigged or anything like that. But those of you that are interested in adding an animation to see what the cloth looks like in an animation can surely do that if you'd like. I'm not going to stop you. In fact, give you some extra credit if you want to. Give that a shot. Alright, so I'm going to do the edge. I'm just going to select everything and soften that up before we move forward. Now I put this, we had this in a layer, the duplicate, the mesh underneath, and I referenced it so you can see right here. So it kept selecting while I was modeling, so to get rid of that I just put it in a reference layer. So alright, let's go ahead and soften edge. There we go. And that should take care of all the issues and problems we've been having. So there's our dress, really. We just got some parts right here to take care of, and we will. So let's go ahead and select the face, and we're just going to go ahead and get rid of everything here. Hit the Q key, and just, whoops, don't want to do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and just delete what we don't need right here. And we're going to redo the breastplate because this the end cloth just doesn't look right with this geometry, this type of geometry going on here. Just like a dress, when it fits over you, that's how you got to kind of look at it. Alright, so, and I've got all this junk back here I selected accidentally, so make sure you don't select any of that stuff and deselect the stuff you've got. Just double check everything. In fact, I hit the 4 key to kind of be able to see through everything. Alright, so that's good. Alright, so let's go back in here and let's kind of make something that's a little more realistic as far as how that would look. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is we're going to extrude these two parts out, because I'm going to go ahead and just focus on this part so we don't have the background of the mannequin. So I'm going to do Control 1. This makes it easier for me. Okay. And so I'm going to start right at the edges, just as easy as you can. And I'll show you how to fill this up. So I'm going to do Control E, and I'm going to hit the W key, and we'll go ahead and move it on out like that. And we'll just scale it on in like that. So we don't want to go too far. Obviously we've kind of overshot here a little bit. There we go. So easy to take care of. We need to just kind of weld points. That's what we're going to do throughout the whole entire thing. Just weld these points. So let's go ahead and do that. Hold the shift key and the right mouse button, go to target weld, go in here and click on right click and go to vertex, and let's go ahead and weld these. It's basically clicking on it and just moving it down. Pretty simple. Alright, there we go. Alright, so that's good. We need to kind of set these points out a little bit better. So I'm going to hit the Q key and select that point and select this point and just move them out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do that for all of these. Move them out just a little bit to help us get the shape that we need for the breastplate. I think this one's okay. Maybe we can move that out too a little bit. We'll see. So I'm just going to move everything out just a little bit, and make sure you don't select anything else. Hit the 4 key. Make sure nothing behind it gets set. Otherwise, you're going to be pushing and pulling vertices you don't want to, and then that can be a real problem later. You'll have to fix all that stuff. So try to be careful now so you don't have to fix things later. Okay. So we're not going to move anything around here. That's pretty good. Just moving things out that way. There we go. And with this, I'm going to move this out a little bit to those two. And it might be a good idea, since I'm doing this, I'm going to go ahead, modeling, go to display, heads-up display, and turn on poly count. That way I can kind of see how many points I've got selected without having to look every single time. So I've got those two. Alright, so move those out. That looks good. Maybe move them down just a little bit. Perfect. Alright, great. And I think this one up here, I'm going to move out just a little bit like that. Okay, that's good. Alright, so let's continue. So let's go to this next edge. And next edge here. Hit the Q key so you don't have the manipulator in the way. And let's go to Control E. Alright, so I could use the blue arrow here. That's fine, but I choose not to. Let's go Control Z, and I'm going to hit the R key and scale that in and just move it out. Okay, so we're just kind of lining it up with these two guys right here. So let's go back to scale and bring that back just a little bit. And we want to get as close as we can, so let's go ahead and move that in. Okay, that's pretty good. Not too bad. Okay, so let's click off and go to selection mode. And we're going to go hold the shift and right mouse button, go to target weld again, and right click over it and go to vertex. And let's go ahead and weld these guys. Here we go. Pretty simple. Alright. Getting there. Alright, and then let's go ahead and hit the Q key again and go right into edge mode. Didn't think you were going to do a lot of modeling today. Well, anyway. Yeah, we got to do the dress. I don't have Marvelous Designer, wish I did, or any other sin cloth simulator, like I think it's Qua Cloth or something like that. It's really good. We'll look at those. We looked at some of that stuff earlier, but yeah, if you want to test or do a trial on those, that would be great. Go ahead and check them out, see what you think. And I think Marvelous Designer sometimes has some good deals online. Alright, so let's do Control E again. We're doing the same thing. It's the last one. We'll hit the R key and scale those in like that. This is our last one. And let's move them out just a little, like that. I scaled them too much. There we go. Perfect. Alright, that'll work. Alright, so let's go ahead and selection mode and do the same thing as we did before. Target weld. And target weld that one, and target weld that one. And do this one and this one. And this one I'm going to do different. I'm going to hit the Q key. And I'm going to select these two guys. And go to merge to center. There we go. And there we have it. Okay, we'll have to make some adjustments to that, of course, to get this to look right. But otherwise, not too bad. Let's go ahead and select edges and select all the edges. Right now, mesh display, soften edge. There we go. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn the duplicate back on. So just do a Control 1 again. There we go. You can see we've got some work to do. First thing I'm going to do on the mannequin is just kind of make it a little bit easier. I'm going to turn off reference. Is to just on the breastplate, I'm going to take this and push these in. Again, I did not model this, so let's just flatten that out just a little bit more. We want some shape, but the other way was just outrageous. Okay, here we go. Much better. Can handle that. Alright, so that's good. Right, that's not bad. We can deal with that. Okay, so the next thing we need to just kind of get the breastplate checked. So I am going to now template this. Here we go. So it's not getting in our way at all. And you can see that we've got plenty of space here for the dress to kind of settle. And but here is an issue. So let's go ahead and select these. Okay, like that. And move those out. Okay, you can see that's getting better. Alright. Okay, and then the bottom row, same thing. Bottom 4. Here we go. Make sure you're not selecting anything else. Looks like I selected something else. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay, we got 5. Alright, so 5 and 5, that's good. And let's move that out. And you can see that helps a little bit. But then we got some issues over here, so let's go ahead and select these two and scale those out like that. That'll work. Works a little bit better. And then we're just going to have to select the points that need to be selected to give us what we're looking for. So we might want to bring this back a little bit. See if that works. Yeah, that helps a lot. There we go, like that. And do the same thing like to this one. Maybe a little bit more right here, and maybe more right here. Okay, that helps. Just kind of try to work it out the best you can. There we go. And next thing I want to do is we need to add edge loops here. So we're not working with many edge loops right here, so let's go ahead and change that. Let's go ahead here and insert edge loop on this one right in the middle if we can. There we go, right there. And then right in the middle here. Okay, that will help a lot. There we go. Alright, so cool. Alright, so now we can go in here and look at what we have. Okay, so we're going to redistribute some of these vertices around. Move some things around a little bit more, so I'm going to take an edge here. Get out of that tool, so hit the Q key. There we go. Alright, so click off, and you can move edge if you want to, so that helps a little bit. Sometimes that's easier. Whatever works for you. Okay. That side's okay. Alright. So we need to round this out just a little bit more. So I'm going to pull this out just a little bit right here and pull this out just a little bit right here. Just kind of round that out. And we are going to select this edge loop right here. Hit the Q key. Move that down so we can even these out a little bit more, space these out a little bit better. Alright, so that looks pretty good. There we have it. And let's go ahead and do custom slide. Oh, there we go. That's what we needed to do. Let's go back again. Whenever I use that tool, I wish it would do it automatically, but it doesn't. I'm going to slide. So to get that tool to work, double click on that, go to custom and go to edge mode, and that will go to slide. So now it'll slide along the surface there, which is a fantastic tool. Alright, so we'll use the slide tool there, and do we need to see anything else we need to add? Everything else looks really, really good. I think we're okay. I don't see anything else. So I think that looks pretty good. Let's go back in here and select the dress, and we'll go ahead and select all the edges. And one more time, do soften. I don't think we need to do that, but I think we're good. All right. So the dress is over the mesh now completely, and you can make a choice of whether you want to go lower, but you can't go higher. I want to keep this like it is right now, and maybe a little bit lower. I think I did the first one is a little bit lower. That way the knees will run into that. But I'll just keep it. I'm gonna fix this though. I don't like this. So select these edges and slide up. Select these edges and slide up. Here we go. So it's looking a little bit better. Okay. And we could probably slide these down. Alright, I think we're good with that. Slide those down. Look how it's sliding, following that loop. That is just fantastic. Love how that works like that. Looks pretty good. It's kind of okay. So that's a lot nicer. So you're just kind of making sure all the edge loops are. What do we got here? I think that's okay. Maybe that's a little bit close. To check the geometry and the geometry underneath, let's go ahead and turn that go from template to off. Let's turn that off, and I'm gonna hit the 4 key, and this kind of shows you how close we are to the other mesh, and we've got this very, very close right here. So I'm gonna select that face right there. That's really close, and when you move around you can kind of see it at different angles. Okay, that's really, really close. So that's might be a problem right there. So I've marked it, and kind of shows too when I'm rotating around. That could be an issue or a problem. So So what I can do is I can select that whole row and just move it out slightly. I'm going to turn slide off. I'm going to reset it. There we go. And we're just giving a distance to it. Adding a little more distance right there. I'm moving it a lot, just a little bit, just to kind of give it a little more distance there. The other ones, and if you wanted to kind of equalize everything out, you could probably move this just a smidgen. There we go. And I will probably pull that little guy out here, just a little bit, to keep that nice and smooth. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Pretty happy with that. Oh, another tool you can use that I think it's important is the Sculpting Tool. Okay, a lot of people forget about this one. It's really powerful. That will help us sculpt some of these issues out. So I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and separate this away. So I did make sure the object selected, go Control 1. That'll hide everything but what you have selected. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and delete by type history. That's really building up. And so I'm going to click off this. I had reset that, so it's a good idea to reset it before you turn it off. I'm going to go to Mesh Tools, Sculpting Tool, and Sculpt Tool. Okay, so I'm going to go in here and go into the option box. And if you see some areas that you want to sculpt out, I've got it set to 0.2 and strength 0.25, and that works out pretty good. And I'm just going to pull this out just a little bit more, sculpt down in here. So I'm pulling out on these vertices. Okay, I'm not doing a whole lot. Okay, and it won't do a whole lot, you know. Right, so if you don't like what you do, you can always Control Z back. Okay, and it doesn't look like I'm doing too much, but it is working. I'm going to hit the Q key to get out of there. And we're not going to really notice anything until we actually smooth it. So at this point, let's go to Control 1. And now we're ready to smooth the objects, but we always want to keep what we have here, and it's looking pretty good. Let's go in here and go to File, Save As. We haven't saved for a while, so this will be number 2, and we should be saving a lot more than that. And you should be for sure. I've already done this, so if you don't see me saving, make sure you save yourself for a long, quite a few times. Maybe should have maybe 20 saves by now, hopefully. And so with this, now we're going to go ahead and select it, and we're going to go to the mesh. We're going to go to smooth. We're going to smooth it at 1. There we go. And don't worry if you can see through the body. Body needs to be smoothed as well. So I'm going to go to mesh and smooth. Alright, great. So now you can see what you can have. Alright, so not too bad. Okay, so I'm going to do now with this body selected, I'm going to go in here and do some relaxing, okay, around this area here, the chest area that we've created. So I'm going to use the edit mesh, the mesh tools, and go to sculpting relax tool. Okay. Now what the relax tool does is it kind of moves these vertices around, especially if you have like wrinkles and stuff in here, and I really don't want wrinkles yet but I do want it to smooth out. Between each of the vertices, it sees the distance between the two and where they're at, and it smooths them out. So it's really, they should have called it the smoothing tool, but the relaxing tool just kind of relaxes and combines the two, translates and smooths them out. So strength, just keep it the way it is, and you can just kind of go around here and just smooth this out, just slowly. Don't go too crazy. Just kind of smoothing things out right here. Okay. And this will give it a really nice overall shape. Okay, there we go. I think that looks pretty good. And if you see anything else, okay, I think I'm pretty happy with that. We've done a pretty good job so far. It looks nice. All right, great. So again, you know, if you have some real issues, you can use the smooth. You can use, you know, some other. And I kind of like that divot inside there. That's nice. That's good. It's kind of gives you some shape there. All right. And I think that looks pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with that. Hit the Q key to get out of that tool. All right. All right. The next thing we're gonna do is if you're gonna, you know, we're gonna texture the dress. Okay. So I'm gonna have you guys do that. So, but I'll show you how to lay out the UVs, and then you guys can bring it into Substance Painter and texture it and do what you want with it. All we need is a color map. We don't need anything special because we're just going to do a play blast. Okay? So when we do our simulation. All right. That's it for this video, and we'll see you in the next.